Tom Dobler told me I was my own presentation type. So I decided I'm going to do this entire one from behind the podium. It's good to be with you on this last day of new faculty orientation, because tomorrow starts new faculty training. And I really don't know the difference. Except that I've been told for the last 4 days you've been drinking from a fire hose. I think starting tomorrow we detach the hose from the fire hydrant and just stick you in front of it. But it is good to be here. Starting next week, I will be in and out of town, going to 2 regions in Texas to offer some new faculty orientation there. I'll be back in town meeting with some of you at Singapore training, meeting with others at prep school math training, and even still others at classic rhetoric training. But this is the last time that I have with you as a group together, with the entire cohorts of new Arizona Great Hearts faculty. And I wanted to take this opportunity to clear up a few things. Actually, I just wanted to clear up one thing, because there's this rumor going around. And it took me about 3 days to track down the source of this rumor. Now, how, might you ask, does somebody with really no training in detective work go about tracking down the source of a rumor? Well, I'm going to tell you. See, it involved a lot of detailed sleuth work. Yesterday at 4 o'clock, Geraldine came up to me and said, "Jake, I started a rumor about you." And I said, "Really? What?" Geraldine said, "Well, I told people that you would close out NFO by offering some profound thoughts. Just real quick, you only get 5 minutes. But I kind of told them that you would do it while you were juggling." And I said, "Uh-huh." So, Geraldine, you do know that I don't know how to juggle. And she looked, she said, "Yeah, I thought about that, but we're Great Hearts, and we're built upon the ideals of rumor, goodness, and beauty." And I said, "Look, your tripartite proposal has a tripartite problem. The first problem is that I've never said anything profound that I haven't plagiarized from other people. The second problem is you and I both know I've never said anything in 5 minutes. And the third problem, and this might be the most important one, is I don't know how to juggle." Now, Gerald and I have been working together for about 3 years, and something happened that often happens. She sighed. She got that look in her face that I've seen so many times. It's that look, the meaning is so clear. She sighs, she looks, and it basically says, "Jake, like if you don't do this, I'm going to punch you in the face." So I said, "Okay, I'm in." So last night at 4:30 p.m., I went out and bought these bowling pin-looking things, and I tried, unsuccessfully I might add, to teach myself to juggle them all night long. I tried even more unsuccessfully to find something profound to say. I was up until 4:30 a.m., and then I remembered that I never promised her that I'd be successful at this. So what I'd like to do with you is just to at least share with you the 2 very unsuccessful ideas of profound thoughts that I had. My first unprofound thought was that I would take juggling and somehow relate it to some aspect of the curriculum. I thought I would pick something like humane letters, and I would say, humane letters, the new teacher particularly feels like they're juggling all of the great works of Western literature, from Aristotle to Austen, from Dickens to Dostoevsky, and there's so many of them, particularly that first year, that you might get overwhelmed, and eventually one of them just might drop. And then I would look at that club and say, well, that's okay, because that one was the Communist Manifesto. I know, some people like that word, but let's be honest, like if one of them has to go, But I decided that might offend some people, so I wouldn't make that joke. Now, my second thought was even worse. I thought I would somehow make a profound point about the connection between juggling and life in general. I would say something like, life is like juggling. You have to always be prepared and catch whatever comes your way. But then I had this great trick. I was going to walk up and down the front row, juggling the whole time, and then for some unsuspecting victim, I would toss the club out, and just as it gets within a quarter of their face, I'd snatch it back. And as they jump back, I'd say, see, you always have to be prepared. And then I remembered I did that trick once, and that didn't go so well, and a broken nose, that's another story for another time. But that leaves me in something of a predicament, because if I didn't have anything profound to say, what was I to do? And so I decided I would just be practical. I'm going to go ahead and answer that one question that is on all of your mind. Actually, I should be more precise, though. It's probably one of two questions that's on your mind. Because, see, there's this thing I've noticed. As people watch jugglers, they can be cleanly divided into two categories based on the question they're thinking. It's not even thinking. They can't help themselves. They actually ask it. And you can tell everything that you need to know about your personality based on which question it is. In fact, I've often thought we should just reduce the entire interview process to this one thing, at least the screening. The first personality is a bit precarious. They watch a juggler, they see the clubs flying through the air, they watch, they wonder, and they can't help themselves. They always ask, can you do chainsaws? No, I can't do chainsaws. I have no desire to do chainsaws. I like thinking in base 10. I don't want to have to think in base 5. It's okay, that was a math joke. It involves cutting your hands off. If you didn't get it, someone will explain it later. There's a subtype, by the way, that always asks, can you do fire? But that's just really a variation on the chainsaw personality. The second personality type is equally as precarious. They also watch the clubs flying through the air. They look at the juggler, they watch, they wonder, and they can't help themselves. They always ask, are you a clown? Let's get this straight. I am not a clown. I've never been a clown. I don't have a desire to be a clown. I've not been in the circus. Juggling is serious business. It involves dedication and coordination and concentration and truth, goodness, and beauty. I'm not a clown. But it does raise the interesting question about what types of people are jugglers. So I actually have an answer for that. If you go to professional juggling competitions, otherwise known as gatherings of really cool people, you will find that there is a disproportionate representation of another category that I like to call really, really cool people, known as, of course, professional mathematicians and physicists. So this is true. It turns out that among the elite jugglers in the world, there's a disproportionate representation of mathematicians and physicists. Now, why is that? What is it about the connection between math and juggling? And I'm not the only one that's wondered this. Psychologists are interested in this. They've been studying this for decades, for centuries, So actually, none of that's true. Psychologists don't care about that question. They haven't been studying it. But it is true that among the elite jugglers in the world, you will find a disproportionate representation of mathematicians and physicists. Now, I first learned this when I went to undergraduate school at Denison University in Granville, Ohio. And my academic advisor, a math professor, was also a world-class juggler. Now, to put it in perspective, this guy could juggle 9 balls fairly fluently. And at the time, the world record was 10. This guy was really good. But in addition to introducing me to juggling, he also introduced me to an area of mathematics aptly called the mathematics of juggling. Now, to be clear, we are not talking about the physics of juggling. We're not talking about studying the rotational momentum or the parabolic paths of the clubs. We're talking about the mathematics of juggling. Taking juggling patterns, and mathematicians would code them with numbers. And they could look at these sequences of numbers, and they could tell you which ones were valid juggling patterns and which ones weren't. And so the mathematicians, who were also jugglers, were able to use this to come up with new juggling patterns. And they'd hand them over to the jugglers, who were also mathematicians, and the jugglers would try them out and see what they looked like and see how difficult they were. And I knew at that moment that I was hooked. So I finished undergrad, went off to graduate school to study much more serious mathematics, but I couldn't help it. At the end of grad school, I ended up doing my master's thesis on none other than the mathematics of juggling. Now, that's pretty great if you think about it. What other discipline can you do something so utterly useless in? I didn't mean useless, I meant non-utilitarian. But this leaves me in a bit of a quandary at this point. I've well exceeded my 5 minutes. I haven't really said anything profound. Now, I did juggle, so I got at least one of your objectives. I expect that written in my evaluation later. Well, in terms of the profundity, though, I'm not sure it matters at this point. You've had 4 days of very talented speakers, from the elegant Mac Esau to the dynamic Dan Scoggin, from Rob Jiminy, that was a lot of educational history, Jackson, to Geraldine, oh my gosh, she's going to punch me in the face, Olson. And what I have to offer, I think, is actually much simpler. I don't think it's profound. I don't think it has anything to do with juggling. But I know it's important, and I know it's true. After you wrap up your NFO, after you go into some training and you step into your first Great Hearts classroom, if there's one thing that you remember, just one, I hope it's this. Always remember to have fun. Because it is supposed to be fun work. Yes, this is a noble, noble endeavor that we're involved in. In fact, it's fun because it's noble. It's important work that we do. But you should also enjoy it. And yeah, there's going to be hard days. There's going to be days when you wake up and you feel like you can't come in and juggle one more thing amidst all the students that you're juggling. And with regards to that second thing, just for the record, that's not okay. There are laws against juggling students. Unless they're kindergartners because they're smaller. But even on those days, we wake up, we come in, and we do our thing. And we do our thing because deep down we love it. We love what we do. And in the long run, it makes us happy. It brings us great joy. It brings us great fulfillment. And it is fun. So my wish for you at the end of this new faculty orientation is that you have the best of years, that you feel that love and support from your colleagues, your headmasters, and those of us at the lead office. But above all, that you may have more fun than you have ever had in your entire life. Thank you so much.